like, no snalili mina, no snalili mina, nothing, no mina, no tears. I kill. For me, there was just a weaponizing of some dry ass tears here that I was also just really not here for, to be perfectly honest. Wait again. Let me stop because other reviews are wear Tammy's ass out, and Tammy doesn't deserve that. Who's this therapist that she's going to, guys? Come on, what guy? Like, therapy is the new BBL because everybody's in therapy, but like we can't see it because the way you are moving and your behavior and the things that you are saying are still not making sense. These cameramen and producers have all the time in the world to be in the apartments, Tsabo Khutso, in the apartments, Tsabo Tami, filming fireworks. And you want to tell me there's no time to be in Bosebenzile's apartment? Out of the blue, the purple and the gray. Like, just hit him in the face with a break in front of the cameras, the lights, and the action of it all. That there are times you're not going to like this person. There are times you're not going to love this person. There are times you're going to want to choke them out in their sleep in the bed next to you. So love, transient. Love cannot be the only motivator of let's sit down and do this marriage thing. Hi everybody, and welcome to Rakhadi's Views with me, Rakhadi Watsona, where I give you my views on reality, and you have clicked in, and welcome to Married at First Sight, episode 10. Now, guys, I know I'm late with this video, but like, I had watched bits and pieces when it came out, and there was a lot that was going on in this episode. And for one, I felt so overwhelmed, and I think two, I just wanted to collect my thoughts and just give myself some time to just digest and marinate on what it is that I wanted to comment about specifically and how I wanted to comment about it. Because I think, yes, this is an episode where it's very easy to go in and just be dragging people because there was lots of draggish behavior. But, I think there's also so many gems that we can all take away because, my intention, as I've said, from the beginning of creating this channel was like, obviously, number one, a creative outlet. But number two, I think there's just so much that we can take for ourselves in our own personal growth and development by watching some of these reality TV shows. Just to see, like, what is being mirrored back to us in terms of our own behavior. Can we take some of this as a snapshot of what's happening in society and culturally? And I think there were a lot of those elements that I wanted to just think through, instead of just coming here, and calling other people's children out on the internet. So thank you for being patient, and thank you for clicking on the video. And for anybody who's new, welcome to Rakhadi's family. And this is where I do long form reviews of reality TV shows. So definitely, and this had a lot. Guys, I'm even gonna tell you up front, I think I'd been thinking about, should I cut this video into two? So when the editing is happening, that if it is too long, I might just make it into two separate videos because Khutso and Dee alone get thesis. So, but I'm going to record it all in one go because I've realized that recording in bits and pieces actually makes it a lot longer when I combine everything together and make one video for review. So let's see how it goes. Let's see how we go. I'm going to try to keep this to an hour or less. But as I said, lots what's happening. So welcome, get strapped in, get a drink, get going with your errands. If you're cleaning the house, put the Bluetooth on, get ready. If you're driving, drive safely, put your seatbelt on, and let's get into episode 10. So episode 10, we start off where we had left off in episode 9, where the golden envelope exercise went left and a half. After Khutso was asked the question about threesomes and he selected Tempo, and then Dee was interrogating him with extra questions, and then she blew up at the end of it. when Khutso had said that, like, clearly Dee doesn't trust the relationship. So it starts off where she stormed out now because I can't. And so she storms out of the apartment. I think they were in Tabang and Makumo's apartment. Then she goes to her apartment. Tobile follows her to just comfort her, check in, see how she's doing. Tobile gets to the apartment. Dee is letting off steam. Fact this, fact that. How could he? Who does he think he is? And then Khutso comes into the apartment. Tobile is like, cool, let me give you guys some privacy. She exits stage left. Khutso's like, okay, let's sit down. Like, what's going on? Like, tell me what the problem is. Dee is then like, I really have a problem with you always introducing this new important information about our relationship that hurts my feelings. I have a problem with you introducing stuff like that during the people in front of. And she was like, this thing of now saying, that I'm insecure in the relationship, that's news to me. And you're saying that to me in front of the people. And then Khutso, very calmly, this is the one thing I'll give him, very calm. And I think you could see that he was tatazeling a bit and stumbling over his words, but I think he was very determined to get what was on his mind out in the open. And he very calmly told her systematically that, like, this is what happened, and he basically said that, all of the couples were answering these uncomfortable questions. You know, you, uh, you know, you then said certain things about me. You said things about everybody else in that conversation. And all of that was fine. But as soon as I say one thing that you have a problem with, it's World War III, and basically calling her out on that what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. You can do. And homonite, you call everybody else out. But when I do, it's not so nice, And, then he said, for him, like Sebenzile is very sure of his relationship. Like when she made that comment about, Sebenzile, if Witepo and Kuto end up hooking up, or you and I divorce and they hook up, you'll know why. Because Khale, Bakhalelana, they've been wanting each other for a long time. That's what she said during the people. And he was like, Sebenzile gave you his response, and Sebenzile is very secure in his relationship, as you heard from his response. And you are the one who is not sure about me because you were making those statements that I could leave and divorce you and be with Bitepo in the end. And he told her, which I liked, and I think this was a very powerful statement that he made, that just because I'm not as loud as you doesn't mean that I don't have emotions. Wonderful for articulating that, Kuzo. I give you a star. Good for you. And he's like, you can say all of these things. And I didn't say anything, but I say one thing that you don't like. Everything must stop. It's over. The game is over. You're not happy. And we've crumbled. And he's like, I care about you. And when you react that way, it makes it seem like I don't care about you, but I really do care about you. And he's like, you always want me to hear you out, and I really do try my best to sit and to listen to you when you are speaking and to hear you when you are speaking, but you don't listen to me. You don't give me basically that same platform to feel heard by you when I speak. I know Kutuwa Batushem, you could see he was tired, like he was tired, and he then gave her another piece of feedback, which I think could be very useful to her if she takes it in. And he told her that, when I speak, you always seem to hear something else and then you twist it around. So you're not hearing what I'm saying. You are hearing what you want to hear. Rather than what I'm saying. And I'll go back to the fundamentals, guys. Listening is a skill. And I'm not here to be on the soapbox preaching to people like I am the holy perfect person. But guys, this was the first thing I learned in my coach training. And that became very evident very early on is that most of us are horrific listeners. I was a bad listener. We are bad listeners. It is not cultivated within us to be good listeners, particularly in this society that is telling us how we always need to stand up in our individuality and be assertive. And it's about expressing yourself. And it's not about, being docile. It's about letting people know that you're here and making your mark and being proud. And that happens normally in the school space and definitely in the workspace by standing up and speaking up and letting your voice be heard. And I think a byproduct of that is that we have then not focused at all on listening. And what does it mean to be a good listener? Actively listening, meaning that I'm holding space for whatever to show up. I am not paying attention to what my mind tells me I should be responding to. I'm not picking up, okay, you said this in that previous sentence. I'm making a note. I'm going to come back and circle to it. It's actually just listening to really understand what the person is really saying and trying to communicate, and holding that without judgment, holding that without any misconceptions and preconceptions. And I'm going to tell you guys, for somebody who does it as a profession, it is challenging to do. It really is challenging because you've got to be in the right frame of mind and you've got to cultivate and practice it. Listening is a skill and it is a discipline. And so I'm not going to rake people over the coals for being bad listeners. Listening, though, is a spectrum. You know what I'm saying? And I think there are some people where it's like you're at the extreme side of just like, which I'm not understanding. But once again, I think what is evident and what we can use in the case study of Dee and Khutso's marriage is that this is a prime example, I think, of what happens when we go into relationships with unresolved trauma that we are unaware of. Because for me, with Dee here, this is a classic case of bleeding on people who didn't cut you. Because the perception and the lens through which Dee is experiencing Khutso, is hearing Khutso, and I think it's evident to all of us who are watching it that, yes, girl, whatever this person is saying, you're not hearing what he's saying. You're hearing something else. So it's getting lost in translation from the moment it leaves his lips and enters your ears, and then your brain starts to cognitively try to make sense of it. Something is getting lost in translation. I think for the most part we can all agree on that. And I think then that for me comes back to what is the lens that you're looking through life at, right? Because Khutso tells her this, that like, you twist the things that I say. Then Dee starts with a fake ass tears. And I'm sorry. True pain, real hurt, I'm here for. But like, baby, Dee Nalla on that couch without a single, what about a single tear? Nothing was rolling out of those tear ducts. So for me, I was just like, I don't want to like super label people, but it was feeling like very Karen behavior. Like this was really it, where it was like, okay, Kuto's sitting down, and for the first time, he's actually like calling you out on these things in a very calm, rational, untidy files manner. And I think she was just not prepared to hear some of that feedback, and maybe didn't have a response to some of that feedback because she was very emotionally charged. So, when he's telling her these things, then all of a sudden she's like, fine, I get it. I'm not good enough. How did we go from, I wish you would make space to hear me, you are not hearing me and twisting the words that I'm saying, to I'm not good enough? Wabona, that's what I'm saying. What's happening in front of her, what Kuto's saying, and how she's interpreting it. Two different movies. Two different movies. Different movies. And so, the analogy that I can use for this unresolved trauma and how we bleed on people who cut us is like, the analogy is, let's say, a videotape, right? So when you're young, all of these things that we're seeing out in the world, we don't have language, we don't know what's happening, but we are seeing caregivers interacting, we are seeing other people in the social circle. Okay, this is how people speak to each other. This is people's reactions. If I exhibit this behavior as a baby, I get that result. So all of that is recording. Our mind is recording, the videotape is recording and laying down like that foundation for the beliefs. And these are the beliefs that we hold, and that's the stuff that gets imprinted into our mind. And then that's what gets projected out in our eyes as this is where these statements of this is how the world is, this is how people are. I either have a view that the world is a jungle and it's a rough place and it's eat to be eaten, dog eat dog, or based on that videotape that I was recording when I was a child, what I project in my belief is that, oh, the world is actually a very loving place because, I grew up in a very secure household. I was reaffirmed every day. I was told that I was loved. And therefore, I have the belief that anything is possible. I can do it all, whatever. So that videotape, yeah, record that, guys. And just because we're a child doesn't mean that we stop recording. A lot of, I think, what we do is then, because we've set those as our beliefs and we're projecting it out, then what we are looking for through all of our life experiences as we grow is affirmation and confirmation of those beliefs. And this is where the question of whether you experience life as it really is or are you experiencing life as you are comes in. Because if the lens, the glasses, the projection that I have of what's happening in front of me is very different to what is actually happening in front of me, then we have this situation, yakati. And that the way that I think that she is seeing life is very different, and the way that she's hearing Khutso is very different to what he's actually saying. But her tape is stuck on play. Wabana, it's play. It's not play and record. I don't know, these young kids won't remember. The rest of us who used to have cassette tapes and VHS tapes, we remember, you could play and record. You could press play and record at the same time. And for me, D, yours is just playing, girl. It's just playing whatever the story is, whatever your trauma story is. I won't assume to know what it is, but I think it is very evident from your intense emotional reactions. And because of that intensity that we see, that you are reacting to something that is not just about what is happening now, it's about what happened in the past. And now Khutso it's all being projected on him, and that you are not enough, you're not sensitive enough. I just can't do it right. I can't. With no tears. And for me, that stuff, guys, even my little nieces knew as babies, don't come to me, lady. If there are no tears in your eyes, then I'm just like, okay, this is not a real issue. Go find another adult, maybe, who can console you. But like, real tears, real pain. Otherwise, let's sit and have a conversation about what's going on. But please, please, please don't try to manipulate me with like, no snalili mina. No snalili mina. Nothing. No mina, no tears. I girl. For me, I was like, girl, this for me, it just seems like we are manipulating people. And so my goal and my hope and my prayer is for emotional maturity. And I know you say you're going to therapy T and Roshapela Matsoho, but I would just, hope that you're going to be cultivated, because emotional maturity here, it's like it's the ability to regulate yourself and your emotions. Am I aware, self-awareness of myself and my emotions? Am I aware of other people as well? What are their reactions to my emotions? Am I aware of their emotions in their own sovereignty? And am I aware, number one, pinnacle? For me, all of those things are the foundation of emotional maturity. But at the top, it's the ability to actually hold multiple perspectives. And that is hard, guys. Okay. I'm not saying I'm out here being the Dalai Lama, but that is hard, where you can understand that, you know what, there are multiple perspectives and multiple interpretations of what is happening in any given situation. That is the reason that siblings who grew up in the same household will have completely different childhood experiences of their parents and childhood experiences of just our experience as being children in one space, because everybody has their own tape. Everybody's projecting through their own lens and their own perspective. So, for me, this was a whole bunch of projection coming from D, a whole bunch of projection. Um, and then Kutso talks about her, for him, he feels like he always has to cater to her emotions all the time because she has these intense reactions. Those are not responses, reactions to what is happening around her. Like she feels and then she acts first. And then the question, then it's like bull in a china shop. Bitlisa, 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 pa, pa, pa. Then afterwards, it's like, oh, okay. Like I bitlisa everything. And then when we have a conversation, then it's like, oh, okay, I actually needed more information. So he also calls her out on that fake ass apology because it was I'm sorry, I'm not good enough. I'm sorry that I'm hypersensitive. I'm sorry that like I take games seriously. I'm sorry, okay? I said I'm sorry. So he calls her out on that apology. She says to him, please stop badgering me. Language for me, once again, let's highlight that word badgering, because why is feedback badgering? Why is somebody asking you to take accountability badgering? Why does someone calling you out and replaying to you what happened through their eyes? Now it's about I'm not good enough and you're making me feel bad when I tell you that I'm sorry, I'm not good enough. It's actually you're making me feel bad that I'm not good enough. What are these games that he's playing here? And there was just a weaponizing of some dry ass tears here that I was also just really not here for, to be perfectly honest. Just me. Just me. I'm not saying that she didn't have a reaction based on her impulsive, I don't know, feelings to what was happening. But girl, there were no tears. Like I looked, guys, I rewinded like 2 or 3 times. Anyway, so he asks her, like, are you secure in this relationship? Like, what's going on? She says, I told your mom, that I'm 110% in, and that I'm secure. But then she says, I'm not sure about how you feel about me. And that then for me highlighted that, okay, this person needs and wants reassurance, right? And then she says, but you don't seem to care, to Kutso. Why I'm not sure that you're sure about me. You don't even seem to be curious. You don't even ask questions. Like you don't even want to know why. I.e., you are not really interested in that part of things. And maybe what she won't really come out and say, but I think they do talk about it a little bit in the later part of the episode, is obviously what she's seeking here is, emotional safety, emotional security, and stability, which are valid things. I think it's just that number one, stranger danger, guys, it's still 6 weeks. I know this is an emotionally intensive experiment, but I think we also, as the viewing audience, need to remember that these people have only known each other for 6 weeks. We can't have asked them to build, on this type of level. And maybe that's the one thing that this particular couple um, is demonstrating to us, because for them, it's this deeper issue that has come out so early on in their coupling, in terms of how do you actually create that safety? How do you create that stability for your partner when you do have someone like Kuso who can be very emotionally unavailable. He does look like the type, you know. If he is stonewalling, if he is giving you silent treatment, you know, if you can't access this person's internal world, it does create frustration. And I think that's another thing that I picked up where, you know, it's not just about dragging D, because I think sometimes, particularly in this dynamic where you have a very loud and extroverted partner who's paired up with a quieter, more introverted, you know, calmer partner, is that it's usually the loud one, "Otacharach," who'll be screaming and shouting and flying from the chandeliers when they're upset. And we all see it and we're like, why are you so crazy? But this is the thing that I had to learn. And also, okay, I'm going to plug you guys for those who are interested in human behavior the way that I am. If you have not yet, please check out Esther Perel's podcast, Where Should We Begin, which I listen to on Spotify. I think it's on Apple as well. But that's very, like, really informative. You get to be like a fly inside a therapist's room and just listen to everything, which is fantastic. But, you know, this is where she said something that I picked up and it actually stuck with me. And I think it is so true that in those types of dynamics of that pairing of the loud one and then of the quiet one, it's always the loud one because that's the reaction. We see them reacting, we see the explosion. Okay, we see them busting windows out of people's cars. We see them here fake ass crying and telling people that they're not enough and having meltdowns. But in order for that person to be revving in gear 5, somebody had to switch on the ignition of the car. And that's usually the part that we don't see because the other partner is quiet, because the other partner looks calm, and they will also be looking at their partner losing it in a calm manner, like, what is going on? Not understanding, Khutso, that your lack of emotional availability, your lack of showing any sort of curiosity into exploring Dee's internal world, into reaffirming her, into finding out why she's not sure that you're sure about her, and in asking questions about how can I do that? How can I make you feel sure? What security, what safety can I provide for you, emotionally, physically, and otherwise? What can I do to work on that? And then actually working on that would be you taking the key out of the ignition, and we probably wouldn't be seeing her revving on 5 the way that she's revving. I'm not saying she doesn't have her own personal past traumas that we spoke about, but Lewena Khutso, you've got your own personal past traumas that I think lead you to shut down in the ways that you shut down. And she can pick up on that. Listen, the cameras are not there 24 hours a day. All I'm saying is that there is a dynamic. One person, Kanye Ali one. Yes, you might have found her crazy. You might have found her crazy. But how do I continue to contribute explicitly or implicitly to that dynamic? Just saying. I don't know. What do you guys think? I might, you know, you might be like, girl, Rahadi girl, come on. Okay. That bitch was just being crazy. But this is just the way that I see it. It's not black and white. And, you know, for me, this is a prime example where we can peel under the layers. Well, this is why Neki Merinate, guys, for a week. As kissy late, but these were just some of the ideas I think that needed to form a little bit more for me with her and this couple in particular in this interaction. So I think there's a lot that's going on between the two of them. And I think also, you know, I made a comment a couple of reviews ago where, you know, it feels like with Dee, you're meeting the representative. And I think what we're seeing every episode is that systematically that representative is stripped away a little bit more. But I think her being vulnerable in this way, I think is something, number one, that she didn't expect. And it's just like expose, like all my emotions. You know, and for me, it's also a lesson for a lot of people, but I think a lot of women, where we are also out here projecting Miss Independent, I can do better by myself, I don't need you, you know, and that's the way that a lot of us have had to survive. because of the environment and the circumstance, or whatever teachings you're receiving from your caregivers. But now, what does that mean when you are in intimate relationship with another person? Because you can have built that wall. You can have it. You can have this armor that helps you to go out, and to slay the dragon and to get your own bacon and to get yours, which is what we need to be doing in this capitalistic hellscape that we're all living in temporarily. But what does that mean now for that little girl that still lives within me and that little girl who still has needs? And how do you then learn as an adult woman trying to function in a healthy relationship to say, actually, I know that I've projected that I don't need anybody and I can do a lot of things by myself. But when I'm in this relationship, I actually need you to reassure me. I do. I need you to validate me in certain ways. I do. I need you to provide containment and safety for me emotionally in these particular ways. If you've never even had to articulate that before, where do you even start? How do you even know? Do you even know that you have those needs? Or all we just see is this crazy behavior that's coming out from D? So, just something, questions to be asking ourselves when we are alone, journaling at home. But that was them. Then we move on, guys. I mean, I'm 30 minutes in and it's Dee Khutso. Listen, I think I might have to just like split this into two. There's no way. I also don't want to keep you guys here for 2 hours. Like, that's going to be super long. So then we move on to what happens? Oh, all the participants are meeting with Dr. Zenda and Anele. And it's like a pen. I didn't like the seating and the setup because it was like the panelists on one side and the two experts on the other side. It felt like a firing line. It was very uncomfortable for me. Anyway, the panelists, I mean, the experts are asking them questions about how are people doing. This is the thing for me. I don't know for sure if the experts do not watch tape of what happens before they interact with the participants. My gut feeling tells me that they do, or at least are given an overview of what is happening. So for me, I would just like if we didn't pretend that we don't know what's going on. Because, yes, obviously, Dee and Khutso have tension, but like, those are the first people you're going to ask questions, and then you're going to dig deeper because Dee was like, no, she didn't even answer. You could see she didn't want to participate, but they're like, no, let's get in, let's poke the bear. Let's take a page out of the Australian Married at First Sight, which that one, super produced, super scripted. We are making TV there. But the one thing that they do, which I think is what I would like, because there is for me not enough couples therapy and one-on-one therapy happening in this show. What they do in Australia is that you'll actually see like two experts sitting on the couch watching whatever's being filmed. So if there's, some conflict that arises, they are watching that film at the same time that we are watching it. And they're sitting in a separate room, giving commentary, having a conversation with each other about what they're watching on the screen. And therefore, that informs how the experts are going to then talk to that particular couple or to the group at their next interaction. I would prefer that, because this whole, we don't know what's going on, but like we know exactly who to zone in on and ask the questions, please. Also, it would help to give us more insight into like what they're really thinking, and their assessments of the situations. I think that would be great, outside of them just having these very edited 1 minute interactions. I mean, it's probably a lot longer, but what we see that's edited down is like 1-2 minute interactions with these guys. Anyway, so Adela asks, Dee and Khutso, well, Dee in particular, there's disconnection, there's tension, what's going on? Dee, you can see, doesn't really want to talk, and he pushes her and he's like, no, he really wants to hear from her, not from Khutso. Let's start with her. She then rehashes basically what happened the evening before and their whole fight. And it boils down to her that, she doesn't like receiving new information about their relationship in a public setting. Khutso gives his feedback and they ask for it. He gives his feedback, and that also boils down to, a lot of the other couples were asked uncomfortable questions and difficult questions, but we're the only couple that crumbled in front, after all of that. Then the experts asked Buitepo for her take. Buitepo's like, listen, Sevenzile and I spoke about it before the challenge even happened, and we knew that, you know what, they're going to ask us tough and challenging questions. And essentially, you know, they had a little pre-game strategy session planning, you know, about how they were going to navigate it. Um, and, you know, Buitepo then says that, you know, Sebenzile was reassuring Dee and Khutso was reassuring Dee, but for some reason she wouldn't accept that reassurance. And that's the part that she doesn't really understand. And then Sebenzile also just highlighted that, you know, for them, what kept it together was communication, you know, and planning for the setup. Because I think, you know, they had that golden envelope experiment once before, and I think they knew that, you know what, if they're getting us all together again, it's gonna be a setup. Producers producing Motswako, spice, raja, curry powder, Kashmiri. It's going down. They know. So then Anela makes a interesting and insightful, I think, assessment with Tabang and Kumo that you know, asking them how do they deal with genuine conflict, because he senses that there's this playfulness, but that when things get very real, um, they sort of sublimate that and then replace it with something else so that we don't have to deal. And I think that was a very good question. I just, we didn't get a lot out of Tabang and Kumo's responses in directly answering that question. So for me, there was a slight deflection from Tabang's answer where Tabang just rehashed, you know, they had conflict that day when, you know, Makumo was calling him out with Sebenzile and Buitepo about his lack of cooking and cleaning and that she didn't buy him the clothes that she said she was going to buy him. And, you know, he said he was upset at the way that she lashed out and that he wasn't able to respond. But then he says we were able to resolve that. How? When? This is why there are cameras. We want to see. How did you resolve it? You know? So I think for them, it's like they'll have these blow ups if it happens. And I think it's just the pressure cooker. And then in silence and goody kuning, that's when they're going to resolve it. Which I can't really rake them over the coals for, because not everybody wants all their business in the street. But y'all are on a reality TV show. You signed contracts. We want to see. Who said you must have a relationship with TV? Who? But you came. And then cameras are rolling, and then you're getting whatever benefits you're getting out of it, but like you don't want to show us the things that are actually going to be useful to people. Okay, we saw the bad behavior, we saw the explosion, we saw the fight. Show us how you manage that conflict, right? Because this is the thing with the relationship, it's the rupture and the repair, but we just see the rupture. Where's the repair? And they don't even want to tell the experts themselves as to how they resolved it. How did they do that? Because they clearly did it outside of the therapy. So we don't even know if what they're saying is actually true or real. They could have just swept it under the carpet and said, baby, let's keep it pushing until Refetsa show, because let's get through this. I don't know. For me, it's just, it's giving very surface level. It's giving very shallow. Um, and I don't know. I don't know about the real work, you know, that they say that they're doing. I give it to my pirisa, but I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it. Um, and then Makumo speaks about, you know, how she feels that maybe sometimes she pushes too much, she asks for too much, you know, maybe this playfulness element that they've got, you know, is hurting them sometimes more than it's helping them, because, you know, she'll be communicating and saying things, and she doesn't know if Taraga's taking it as a joke or real or not, whatever. It's not really that in depth. I'm not here for it in that aspect. And then Anela says something that I found very profound. I even wrote it down in my notes, that, and this was in his diary session separately, that people are struggling to find the authenticity of love in marriage. And that's what's making marriage, that's what makes marriage very difficult. And I was like, Anela, say it again for the people in the back. People are struggling to find the authenticity of love in marriage. And, you know, he gives reasons that sometimes, you know, people go into it, you know, trying to get what's in it for them, whatever that is, going into marriages for the wrong reasons. And that when it comes to people entering into a marriage, there has to be an element, a strong element of truthfulness. And I'm adding in there for myself truthfulness with oneself. Hore, why do I want to get married? Full stop. Don't even bring in the other person. Why do I want to get married? Really, really interrogating that question, guys. Then you can say, why do I want to get married to that individual? And then communicating whatever those reflections are to that person. This is the strong truthfulness that's required. And I loved what he said right there, because I think, and he made a comment basically acknowledging, all of the participants' courage and bravery to come to a show like this and to do what they're doing. And I would not be putting my business out there in the streets like this. But they're giving us all an opportunity, not just, as I said, to just be commenting and dragging people and labeling them, but to really learn and see, like, what are the challenges in trying to relate with another person, regardless of whatever everybody's motivations are for coming to a TV show, outside of Buitsepo and Sebenzile, who are just still trying to give us another day in paradise. The other three couples are giving us like some real stuff. Tabang and Makumo, they try to hide a lot of their business because I think they are still, I don't know, maybe they are the representation of the social media generation where we need to just be portraying images of perfection all the time, and that's why we're not really going to see a lot of real. Maybe they don't know how to do real, because they just don't, like, they've never had to. But definitely it's Tomile and Tammy and Dee and Khutso showing us, what it actually takes and what it looks like. Because I will tell you guys, this is what I always say with a friend of mine, and we're doing I know she's listening. Friend, I know you're listening. Podcast Emezy. I will let you know when we've got it together and we are launching it, because this is where we need to start having more nuanced, I think, conversations around the expectations of what this adulting thing was going to be like and all different facets of it, compared to what's actually happening and what we're experiencing, and how do we make sense of it. We might not find resolution in all of it, but we definitely, I think, need to start having richer conversations that talk about the paradox and the complexity of navigating things in this modern day age. But definitely around marriage, that this is not easy business, and that love in and of itself, and my friend, friend, I said, we say it. Love has very little to do with getting married. Honestly, building a marriage long term, the love is great if you've got it. It's the glue that you need. But love is a feeling, and feelings are transient. Feelings are temporary. So what happens when you don't feel the feeling of love? Because you're not gonna feel it. You're not. You're not, guys. My parents have been together for like 50 plus years. You see, and I'm grateful that I've actually been able to even see what it's like for two people navigating a marriage as an adult. And that's when you start to see there are days, weeks, years, you're not even just mungo, the smell of that person makes you want to scream. So, and like, this is the common theme. This is the common feedback that I've had from people who have been married for a very long time. Go watch Black Love. They all talk about it as well. That there are times you're not going to like this person. There are times you're not going to love this person. There are times you're going to want to choke them out in their sleep in the bed next to you. So love, transient. Love cannot be the only motivator of let's sit down and do this marriage thing. And that is what they are showing us here at the very least. You know me and my say, I can say about marriage, but married at first sight. But definitely being in a relationship with other people. Rough, difficult. Then we see Zitobile and Tammy. Zitobile says she's crying about, her decision about whether she's going to move on and stay married to Tammy or stay in this relationship or not. She says Tammy has told her that he is in it and his decision is to stay. So it's up to her. But if she decides not to move on, he's never going to, take the risk of getting married again, and he's not going to try with another person. I didn't like that, Tammy. That sounded very, very manipulative, because there was Tobile even crying, saying that statement alone is putting a lot of pressure on her. It's like these exes who are telling you, I'm never going to love anybody again. I'm not doing love after this. If it didn't work out, that's a choice that you are making to not want to try to get married again. But please don't hang those choices over other people's children's heads. Not fair, not nice. Didn't like that. And then we see Tammy has also arranged after that like a little romantic date with balloons and rose petals and candles and things. Um, in the apartment, he calls Tobile out of the bedroom. Then he shows her what he's done. And then there's a very awkward, strange, and weird hug that comes after that. Even Zitomile was like, this is a weird hug. Very These Jehovah's Witnesses hugs, guys, they're making the rounds. They're making the rounds on this TV show. Very strange, very awkward. I don't know about that physical intimacy between Zitobile and Tammy. I can't say what's going on. Anyway, Tammy sits down, says he's sweating in the kitchen. He hasn't sweated like this in a long time, making food. And Zitobile is like, from putting a ready-made lasagna in the oven. Also, question mark, we come back to another theme. Tammy, you're living in Dubai, allegedly, supposedly by yourself. We don't know. What have you been eating this whole time? Like, maybe I'll give you the grace that if you're there teaching at a school, they might give you lunch. Supper time. Like, he's 35, I think. You can't tell me that you have not cooked for yourself in 35 years and then putting a ready-made lasagna in the oven. Wait again. Let me stop, because other reviews are wear Tammy's ass out, and Tammy doesn't deserve that. Today, this episode, he was okay, but that was just shocking. Anyway, Tammy gifts her with roses, her favorite, and a box of snacks and chocolates, and she's very happy. And he says he's turning into a good man. Now he's romantic, and who would want to let go of a good man? Basically pumping himself up that, like, one romantic date is making him the best husband in the world. But listen, this is what I'll give to him. I'll give it to Yazin. Let me give it to Tammy. Wait again. On the neck every review. He's trying. This is what I will say. He's trying. Tobile has finally learned to communicate some of the things that she needs and wants, and he is trying to give them to her and to appease her. So for that, I'm going to give him a gold star. Tammy is really trying. My question is, what is his motivation? So even when he says he's sticking it out with her and he wants to stay married, why? I don't know if his motivation is really because he feels that he's compatible with Zitobile. Zitobile has what he needs, maybe not what he wanted in the beginning, that he likes, respects, honors, and cares for her as an individual and enjoys her company and wants to build a life with her. I don't know if that is his motivation. That's not what he's giving me as his motivation. I think Tammy definitely wants to be married and have children, and that might be a product of his upbringing and his Tembu home life. Family was everything, and that he's a Zulu man, and that he must marry and be fruitful and multiply. I think that is a big driving force for why he wants to do these things. But could he have done that with anybody? Or does he want to do it with her specifically? I guess sure. Not 100%, but emoji. Then Tammy says, oh no. Then Sitobile says that she doesn't know if she can live with him in a foreign country. And girl, listen to that instinct, because 6 weeks, stranger danger, girl. Okay, we can't now be living with Tammy in a foreign country, trying to make a marriage work when this person speaks to you in a way that makes you feel worthless and unconsidered and not respected. You guys still have a lot to work on, which she says. So in the meantime, Tammy says he'll get an apartment in Joburg, and then Zitobile will come and visit on the weekends. which we'll see if it's going to work because Zitobile, by her own admission, says that she has a tendency when things aren't going well to just ghost and cut people off, which also not healthy behavior. But at least she's aware of it. So we'll give her a star for that. Then we see Kuto and Dee in therapy with Bake and Nogwanda. Okay, guys, actually, I think I'm gonna push this and do this in one review. Let's push it. Let's push it. Just lubricate the throat. Mm. Mm. So Dee and Kuto in therapy with Bake and Nogwanda. Then they ask what's going on. Dee says, like, look, yeah, no, guys, we're not in a good place. Um, she reiterates the stuff that we've been talking about the whole episode, which is, blindsiding her in public. But then she adds another piece of information that she just found out from Kuto that, the other husbands and wives have been talking about the way that Dee disrespects Kuto in front of other people. And, like, listen, difficult feedback, I think, for Dee to hear that your partner has been discussing you with other people. Not great. I'm not going to give Kuto a pass for that, but the context is that number one, you guys are isolated from friends and family in this social experiment on a TV show. So they really are limited people that any of you can really discuss any of your issues with. He maybe should have chosen one person who I wanted to go and just be like, hey, brah, this is what's going on. But number two, Dee's mother told us when Kuto was meeting her that, like, Wanaka has problems. She doesn't know how to act like a wife. And I think these are the types of behaviors that she was alluding to. So I think we just didn't know how it was going to manifest. But Mama said it. Mama D told us, in certain aspects. And but anyway, Dee took it hard, understandably. You don't want to be the last to know, and also she's made it clear to us several times that for her finding out information in public or being the last to know things also, like, no one wants to be the last to know, Brittany said it, don't let me be the last to know. Nobody wants to be the last to know, so I can sympathize, girl. Um. Anyway, so Bake says, Kuto needs to be affectionate, because Dee is a lady, and she needs that affection, and the affection, I think, probably represents some reassurance. And in his assessment, he's like, they can survive this. It's not like a huge insurmountable issue that they faced with. Um, then Dee uses all of her therapy language to tell us and the therapist that, in the moment when they're having fights, Kuto emotionally abandons the relationship when he's upset. And I think that's a fair assessment from Dee. Bake also rubber stamps that, and tells her that, like, he can also pick up that when Kuto's frustrated, he shuts down. And him checking out obviously is not helping the situation at all. And what he boils it down to, Ubake, is that this is about conflict management. Basically, the rupture and the repair of a relationship. If you want another reference for a good video that taught me about that, look for the School of Life. And I think it's like the art of rupture and repair. Just School of Life, rupture and repair. Very good video. Um, and that is what actually, sustains and maintains relationships. That even if you're having conflict, you're going to have conflict. It's inevitable. Both Baka and Nogwanda are telling us that, but it's about giving them tools around how to actually manage that conflict, which is part of the reason that, for me, as a side note, when it comes to Sebenzile and Buitepo, that relationship, I don't know. It's the lack of that conflict, the lack of this tension and polarity that is required that I'm not really invested in what's going on with these two people. Now, a part of me understands that I think producers have told their narrative in that particular way, maybe to show us that, oh, there's this one couple, who's just doing so well and they were just so perfect for each other from the beginning. But there are no two human individuals. I don't care if it's your soulmate, if it's your twin flame, that are brought together that will not be experiencing disagreements, tension, and conflict. And we have not yet to see. These cameramen and producers have all the time in the world to be in the apartments, Tsabo Khutso, in the apartments, Tsabo Tami, filming fireworks. And you want to tell me there's no time to be in Bosevenzile's apartment trying to get. And I'm not saying it has to be fireworks because every single relationship is different in the dynamic. But have they actually ever recorded those people in their apartment having a disagreement? Ever? Because what I can remember is they either in the apartment talking about other couples, they in the apartment when Sevenzile is giving her gifts or unpacking their bags or talking about whatever activity they're about to do. Maybe when they were meeting their families, but even then it was discussion of this person's coming, this person. Have they had an intimate conversation about me, Sevenzile, and you, Buitepo? This is how we are not seeing eye to eye. Because all we ever hear is their commentary on how they manage their communication and their strategizing. But where it's lacking a humanity here and an authenticity that's a problem with people wanting to position this relationship in this way. Anyway, so for me, conflict, polarity, it is needed. The lack of humanity for me, I don't care about this Jay Z and Beyonce relationship. Well, I'm not here for it. Now and real things. That's what we're here to see. And the real things can also be that we're having good times and that we're compatible and we have happy times. Yes, and that the experts did get it right. That can also be part of the real things. But like this Pleasantville, everything is fine. There's no cruddy underbelly here. Anyway, Upake says that Dee needs to learn to respect Kuto, and then Dee asks him, what would respect be for him? He explains this thing of like, I don't want to fight and have arguments in front of people. While he's even explaining, does Dee not cut him off and I never said that, I never did that. Who's this therapist that she's going to, guys? Come on. Wako guy. Wako guy. Guys, been telling y'all, please be careful of like how you are actually choosing your professionals out. I'm actually going to link a video from another WhatsApp page of mine with just some tips about how to find professionals that you need for your interventions because a friend of mine will always be saying, therapy is the new BBL. Everybody's out. I guess now we are where we work, which is great, guys. I don't want to demotivate you, but like therapy is the new BBL because everybody's in therapy, but like we can't see it because the way you are moving and your behavior and the things that you are saying are still not making sense at all. Anyway, let's move on from Kusa and Dee. So yeah, they say Dee needs to be working on respect. Kusa needs to work on affection and giving her physical touch and reassuring her. Bake says this can still be salvaged. Then the last scene, we see Kuzo and Dee on the balcony together. She brings him some juice. She asks him, excuse me, what did he take from therapy? How does he feel about everything? Kuzo says that he's worried about Dee, based on the therapy feedback that, if she has to be working on respect, and letting him speak and have a space and be listened to, he's a bit worried that, things might still be the same and that nothing's really going to change. Um, so yeah, I think maybe, for him, he feels like perhaps maybe they've been having the same conversation with regards to, give me space to speak and to listen. And then he asks her, what did you take from my side? And she's like, well, nothing much, and he makes the joke and he's like, because I'm perfect. And he's like, no, but if you were listening, the therapist also told me that I need to give you reassurance. Then does D not, out of the blue, the purple and the gray, does she not then say, well, last night when we were having sex, I feel like you were just putting a band-aid on our issues. And this was the thing about that statement, because I think if you paid attention, body language, guys, will tell you everything. She said that, and then the camera pans to Khutso, and you could see him shut down, and he looked down at the ground, and it was just like an off switch. And he looked up at her a few times, like stolen glances, and then he looked like a little boy who was being scolded by his mother. Like his mother had told him, "Khoro, you've done something wrong. Wa bona ngwana, ha o kgalema ngwana." That's what he then looked like. And I think this is where I realized that I think the person who's actually sensitive between these two is Khutso, I think, more than Dee. And this is just a sign and a lesson for all of us women. Guys, these men have emotions. They really do. I don't know why. Like, listen, we don't know how we got here, but we're here. We're here. There's reasons, there's traumas, there's hurts. We are all suffered. We've all suffered at the hands of Ndoda, guys. It's rough. It's real. They also have their own pain. But, like, these people have emotions and they feel them deeply. They just might not express them, and we might not see it, and we might not know what the cues are. But looking at how Kuzo shut down from the way that Dee said what she said at the moment that she said it, that's what I'm seeing here. Dee, your communication. It's not always about what you're saying. Yes, that conversation needed to happen. Fine. Was it the right time to be having this conversation? The way, the tone that you were using, like it just felt like a brick. Like just hit him in the face with a brick in front of the cameras, the lights, and the action of it all. And for me, it was just like, yo, it just seemed a bit violent for me. And I think, you know, at least they were able to have a conversation. And Kuzo's like, no, I understand what you're saying, and she says, for her in future, what she needs by the way of affection is hand holding and hugs, and she's like, and obviously for you, it's sex. And he was like, no, don't make those assumptions, guys. I think as much unlearning as men have to do and relearning, and it's a lot, guys, because Shem, yeah, women started. We started very early on this journey of working towards ourselves. Y'all have a lot, but women, we also have a lot of unlearning and relearning to do, and I think we need to be honest about that with each other. That, like, in our minds, like from this conversation, it's just all you want is sex. Sex is only what's gonna make you feel good, and the things that I say to you and how I say them don't matter, because they're not gonna hurt you. Just because you're quiet, or just because you stonewall, or just because you don't express that what you said to me right now just hurt me. We also need to do better as women, and we can do better. I'm not here to be judging Dee that she's the only person who's doing this. I see some of this behavior, guys, and I can see myself sometimes. Gore le wena rakgadi girl. We must go back to the drawing board. All of us, everybody. We all have work to do. We all have work to do. And let's use this show and the other reality shows that we watch, particularly on this channel, as education, as a demonstration. Yes, because also, I mean, madness. But let's reflect on the madness that we are out here also perpetuating in the lives of other people's children. Okay? And that is the end of the review. I didn't cut it, guys. I made it to an hour. And if you made it to the end, high five. Well done. I appreciate you for being a trooper. I think I kept my word to keep it to an hour, so I don't have to cut it. And I really want to hear what you guys think in the comments. Please let me know. How do you feel? Is Rakhadi just psychoanalyzing on just another level? What is resonating for you in your reflections of your life? And how do you feel about this episode? Please don't forget to also subscribe, to like and comment, and to please hit the notification so that you can know when I upload new videos. Because as you can tell, girl, like, yeah, I'm still working. I'm still working on the consistency of it all. And we will get there, but we'll get there together. And I will see you in the review of the next episode 11, which is out. And I am going to make sure that I watch it and upload it as soon as possible. That's why you need to hit the bell. Shapa bell. Shapa. Don't be shy. And I wish you nothing but the best for the week ahead. And I hope you all enjoyed it and continue to support the channel so that we can get Rakhadi monetized. Okay, Rakhadi needs some coins in her life. And yeah, stay safe. Spread love, not hate. From Rakhadi. Ciao.